Welcome back, everyone. Talking about zero tolerance immigration policy. Certainly in the news a great deal. Have with us Wade Munday, Executive Director of Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors. Several calls. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Marcia. Hello, Marcia.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
There's a lot on my mind. First of all, who's going to pay for these children that come over here? We will.
Right.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. And that's why something needs to be done about these illegal immigrants. Not only the children. Yeah, I feel sorry for the children. But what about us in America? I'm a struggling single mother of a child with special needs. And I don't always get what is needed for him. I don't get free food. I don't get free health care. I don't get free housing.
Right.
Exactly.
I appreciate your call. I know there are a lot of people. Do you have anything else you want to say, or we'll address that? But I appreciate that. There are a lot of people who feel the exact same way.
Exactly. But like I said, who ends up paying for those people that come over here? We do.
Right. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And one thing that I would say to Marcia is there is Tennessee Assistance for Families in Need, public housing. Certainly an issue is expanding Medicaid in our state. So we do need to continue to work to provide for our citizens. One thing about these unaccompanied children is that they could become citizens. They could become taxpayers, and their families could be as well. So if we establish the rule of law in our country and we establish justice for them, then that shows them what our country is all about. It shows the best of America. And so even though we will be paying for them in the short term, our belief as citizens of the United States of America who have no claim to this country, we're not Native Americans. For those of us who came from, my family came from Scotland and Ireland, the future is brighter because we're bringing in people from all around the world around this shared idea of justice and rule of law and order, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I know it doesn't put food on the table, right now in today, but it is something that we can look forward to in the future, is that we're crafting a society that will work so that tomorrow every citizen and every child will be fed and housed. So it's difficult.
So her concern is, I'm struggling myself, and what impact does it have when government pays for others? Can you quantify? I think at the top you quantify the number that come into Tennessee.
Sure.
Do we have numbers about the number that come into Tennessee, how much it costs, and nationwide? I mean, because I think that is an argument that is said a lot, and is it so much money that it's a huge drag, and is there money that's being put back in some way? Yeah. I mean, I guess, how do we address that argument? Yeah,
so the United States being the most plentiful, wealthiest, and prosperous country in the world, beacon of freedom, we spend $1 for every American on foreign aid and assistance. I would guarantee you that we spend less than that on immigrants and refugees who are living here in the United States right now. And I think if we could choose to increase foreign aid and assistance, or we could provide access to justice, clean up our immigration laws here, and still not be spending $1 for every American here in the United States. So I think the cost is negligible. There are several studies that show that immigrants contribute to our society, both undocumented and documented. In the case of undocumented immigrants, in Tennessee, they're paying a 10% sales tax on everything that they consume. They're paying for their housing and all of their goods, and so it's a net benefit for our society.
And how many came into Tennessee, do we know? So
undocumented immigrants in Tennessee, I think the number is around 110 to 150,000, and that is something that needs to get under control. Unaccompanied minor children, children who are technically designated as refugees, we've had 600 so far this year, and they're actually in the custody of their guardians and their sponsors who foot the bill for them. So they actually receive no public assistance.
So the 600, is that maybe they came to the border, and prior to, I guess, this executive order, they were taken from a family member, and then you said they're trying to resettle them with someone who's already here. Maybe there's an aunt or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, that's right.
That's those 600.
Yeah.
So there's 600 in Tennessee this year.
Yeah, it's the same as if you or I had a family in Guatemala, and our nephew, his parents died tragically, and he needed to be adopted by one of us. It's the same situation, so we're paying for all of that.
Let's go to James. Hello, James.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay, just discussing the situation. I mean, we are a country of giving and one of the richest countries in the world. It's not, I think the citizens of this country are really upset more about the idea that the laws are being broken, and if we don't teach that there are consequences to the laws, that more laws will be broken, because once people start breaking laws, it seems like it's a trickle effect of more laws keep getting broken. The MS-13, the kids fall in with other kids that they don't know and don't know. That you tend to be around people that you know, and so if they come here, they're illegal, and they're in a community that's a what would you call it? Like a second-class community where they speak their language. You're gonna have all these negative things that's coming toward them. Nashville, I would call it like a sanctuary city, because over the past 20 years, the immigration from Latin America has probably gone up 20-30%. Nolensville area has pretty much become almost all Latino, down from Thompson Lane all the way to Old Hickory. And I mean, you know, it's a beautiful neighborhood, but it's so much graffiti. I mean, you remember when South Nashville was the zoo, South Cinema, all of that? It's a very flourishing neighborhood.
What would you like to see done, James? What do you think should be done?
I think that, you know, not only the law, but in the social aspects of the community, the churches. I mean, if you bring the kids in, get them involved into the community, and not just their own community, but the Nashville community as a whole. Because we have such a diverse climate here, not just the Latinos, but with Kurdish and Africans. And I mean, Nashville is one of the most diverse cities in this country.
So are you saying reform the laws and allow more in?
Well, not just let more in, but bring them in a condition, because everybody's come here under a condition, and usually within their community.
Okay. All right. Thank you. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. I think what James mentioned about we're a nation of laws and laws need to be obeyed is absolutely right. However, there are many instances, and we can cite them all day, where the punishment doesn't fit the crime. And for people who are fleeing violence and who are just trying to get across the border safely until they can figure out what they need to do, I don't think that they need to be separated and detained. And it sounded like James agreed with that as well. And once they do get into the community, I think it's important that we welcome them, that we provide hospitality to them. And Casa Azafran is a community center on Nolensville Road that provides tons of activities and community building programs for young people, dance for young people of all cultures and backgrounds. There's a multicultural pre-K program that's there, which is terrific, and there are lots of great opportunities. And for James, it sounds like he would be eager to maybe get involved in something like that, because there are several volunteer opportunities where we can stand alongside people so that they don't become a subclass within our culture, but so that they can become Nashvillians and Americans, and there's nothing greater than that.
What reputation does Nashville have as far as a place, welcoming a place for people to come? He said he feels like we're a sanctuary city. I know that by definition, I don't believe we are. I don't think it's a sanctuary city. But you know, what reputation does Nashville have? And you've given numbers for the state, but what are we seeing here?
Yeah, well, in Nashville, yeah, we're not technically designated a sanctuary city. I don't know who comes up with those designations either, but we do have one of the fastest growing immigrant populations in the country, and that's because we started at virtually zero, a very homogenous community 20 years ago maybe, and now a lot of diversity is coming into our area. It's a result of the agricultural environment around Davidson County. It's also because we have in the past experienced a lot of opportunities for families that wanted to move here. So we've experienced a tremendous growth because it's an attractive place to be. It's a low cost of living. It's just a good place to live, work, and raise a family, and people around the world are seeing that.
Let's go to Barbara. Hello, Barbara.
Yeah.
Hi, what's on your mind?
Well, I've had a different experience. So I live in a low-income neighborhood. My husband and I have lived here for 35 years. And what we've seen is as more and more immigrants came to the community, our neighborhood got better. We now have more jobs. We have more restaurants. Our community center is used by people. There are people walking on the sidewalks. It's a much better place to live. So I wanted to make that point, and I also wanted to say that I have been able to get to know some people who have immigrated to our country and to my neighborhood, and they are working very hard. They're not receiving government handouts. They're working in the establishments along Nolensville Road. They're doing construction. They're cleaning houses. They're working really, really hard, and they're not taking anything away from our community. They're enriching it. And as I've been watching TV, I've been so upset about what's going on down at the border and thinking what's really needed is that people coming to our border trying to escape disasters in their home country, they need good legal assistance to understand how to legally immigrate. And so I'm really happy to hear about your guest's organization, and I'm wondering if he would mention how citizens like me could support his organization.
Okay. All right, great.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that she mentioned, I think Republicans and Democrats can all agree on tacos. So one thing that we've got that flourishes in South Nashville is the restaurant scene, and a lot of people want to experience what's going on there. But to get involved with an organization like ours, attorneys are welcome to come and volunteer. We are able to insert them into the process. One thing that I think people fail to recognize is that there's no publicly funded assistance, legal assistance for immigrants and refugees. And so volunteers can be trained in the law and they can represent an individual in need. And that's at no cost to the public. It's just the attorney's time and what would otherwise be their billable hour. We're also working on developing an application, a smartphone app where volunteers who are not lawyers can become involved in our work in offering childcare to working families and drives to and from important appointments, helping them navigate life in Tennessee, because it's very difficult to come from another country and to figure out what a DMV is and why I need to wait in line for 7 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So as a nonprofit immigration law firm, your attorneys, what are they doing? They're taking on what kind of cases? How do they come to these attorneys? Right. You know, what are they doing?
Well, my daughter tells me that Dad goes to work and pushes buttons. But what our attorneys are actually doing is much different. They are interviewing individuals several times over, verifying their background, verifying what they've gone through, and in many cases sitting through their retelling of very traumatic stories. Like I said, everyone's story is individual, but the ones that come into our office are scars of deep trauma and violence that's occurred in their past. Our attorneys sit with them, they provide legal advice and compassion and comfort when needed, direct them to other resources in the community from other nonprofit organizations like mental health counseling or information on how they can get a driver's license or get a job, things like that. And our attorneys will carry their case, in many cases, sometimes 3 to 5 years long, and they'll get to know them. They'll become like family to us.
They'll carry their case to whom?
So we will, someone comes and interviews with us, we accept them as a client.
Right.
We file applications with USCIS or file a notice to appear in immigration court, and sometimes, in many cases, that case will not be resolved for 3 to 5 years.
Because they're coming here saying, I need asylum because if I go back to my home country, I will be killed. Right. Life and death matter. Right.
It's not always an asylum case. There are other visas, like a T visa for victims of human trafficking, which is slightly different. There's special immigrant juvenile status, which I mentioned also. So these cases won't be resolved, and in the meantime, they can't be returned to their home country. We know where they are. We're in constant communication with them. They have a work permit, and they're usually working a very low-wage job while they're waiting for this to be resolved.
How successful? What's the rate of approval, I guess? So someone comes in and says, please, I need to live here because of the terrible things that are happening in my country. And they get a lawyer if they're lucky, and they go through this whole process. How many are accepted and how many are not?
We have a nearly 100% approval rate because our attorneys are very good and because our clients are very deserving of justice. Across the state of Tennessee, there are a number of immigration judges. They're all in Memphis, though, and the approval and denial rates for asylum vary. In Tennessee, it's a little bit better than around the country. I don't want to quote a percentage because I'm not exactly sure, but it's nowhere near 75% or 60% of people get approvals for asylum. There are a lot of people who go through traumatic ordeals who are denied their case for asylum if they don't have a good lawyer.
All right, we're going to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. There are a couple lines open, and I promise we're going to go to calls. After this, I'll just take calls. 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.